I was just going to ask you
Yes.
this this
See.
story that you that this story that you just played. It's in South Florida. The one you played last
Yes, in
week,
South Florida.
also in South Florida. That's
Also
where you
South Florida,
are.
yes.
You're Latino.
See.
Is this something that you see in your extended family? Maybe not your immediate family, but is this something that you're seeing in your family where there are people that are like, you know, supporters of Trump
Yeah.
and they're
Yeah,
yeah?
yeah, yeah. There's cousins and stuff. Even this is way before. This is back like the first election. I remember I had a little like house party. It's a family thing, so I invited like a ton of cousins, people I haven't seen in a while, and like everyone's having a drink and things starts, conversations come up, and then all of a sudden you learn that someone is really an admirer of Trump, and I was like, how the fuck, like, she just came here like a year ago. Like, what are you talking about? Going into kind of the insanity of what's going on in the world in the moment, I do want to play a video for you where there's how do I put this? There's a lot of stuff that's going on right now where it's really kind of scary out there because we don't know what's kind of going on with the government and the things that the things are kind of like beyond maybe people's grasp. Sometimes even I get confused about like what's going on because I
Oh
don't
yeah.
subscribe to even really watching the news as much anymore because it's just too much. So one of the things that we played last episode was uh MAGA Latinos being very, very shocked that things were happening to them, right? And things
Yes.
meaning they were getting deported and they were getting treated like the other, which for some reason most failed to see that that was a possibility. Somehow they got in
Yeah.
their heads that we aren't like them, and that's usually, look, within the Latin community, that's usually there's a lot of colorism and internalized kind of like stuff because you might think that some brown skinned Mexican dude is less than me because of whatever, and there's a lot
Mhm.
of really indigenous looking people in Latin America, and they get shafted. They get shafted. And
I
then
didn't
let's
know
not even
that.
talk about the Afro Latinos. Okay, it's the same part of the conversation.
Yeah.
So there's a huge Venezuelan community here, and I just want to play real quick. There some of the representatives being really shocked at what's going on.
Conference in Doral Monday, Venezuelan Americans denounced the Trump administration and South Florida Republicans.
More than betrayed, beyond betrayed. They used us. They actually, during the campaign, and I don't want to make this political, but during the campaign, the elected officials from the Republican Party, they actually told us that it was not going to touch the documented people.
Press
So
conference.
yeah, I mean, look, it's part of the kind of yeah, man. We told you so. We told you so. Like because look, in a lot of Latin families, there's a lot of this divisiveness, which is really shitty because
Mhm.
it really does cut down the middle of a lot of families where you're like, if first generation kid, and or your family's been here for a minute, maybe you're second generation, and some of them have drunk the soup, the sweet sweet fascist soup,
Can
and
I don't know if it's sweet
and it
fascist soup, but it's can I ask you a question though? Can I ask you a
well, it's
question?
made to be drunk down very easy. So
That's true.
so
That's true.
yes, you were gonna say
I was just going to ask you
yes.
this this
See.
story that you that this story that you just played. It's in South Florida. The one you played
Yes,
last
in
week,
South Florida.
also in South Florida.
And
That's
also
where
South
you are.
Florida, yes.
You're Latino.
See.
Is this something that you see in your extended family? Maybe not your immediate family, but is this something that you're seeing in your family where there are people that are like, you know, supporters of Trump
Yeah.
and they're
Yeah,
yeah?
yeah, yeah. There's cousins and stuff. Even this is way before. This is back like the first election. I remember I had a little like house party. It's a family thing, so I invited like a ton of cousins, people I haven't seen in a while, and like everyone's having a drink and things starts, conversations come up, and then all of a sudden you learn that someone is really an admirer of Trump, and I was like, how the fuck like bitch, you just came here like a year ago. Like, what are you talking about? So
Yeah.
like, but here's the thing though. Here's the thing. A lot of these Latinos that come to this country have a really warped idea of what America is.
Okay.
And it's to no fault of their own, because it's what you're fed overseas.
Hmm.
You're
Okay.
fed the American dream, you're fed like American exceptionalism. And then when you get here, you see the opportunities, because they are radically different than where these people come from, like for real. Like that is a very real thing.
Hmm.
So it becomes internalized, because then all of a sudden you hear someone that's talking in a language that you understand, because your own political and historical kind of understanding of where you're from has been so corrupt and hijacked for forever, that
Mm.
this is like a refer. This is always like, oh yeah, this is the American thing. Like, yeah, of course we gotta be supportive and blah blah blah. They don't understand the subtext and the subtle arguments about the American experience here. And you really only get to live that really if you're born here, and if
Hmm.
you're in tune to it too, because there are a lot of Americans that are also very daft of this thing. A lot of
Very true.
Latinos come here coming from dictatorships and really shitty governments that like are very very authoritarian, and this is like a breath of fresh air, because it
I
is. It's there
see.
is
Yeah.
no there is no there is there that is the truth. But what they
Yeah.
don't see is that this is the path that we're falling down on, and they don't see
Going
that.
to where you
Right.
going
Where
down the
you
path
were.
of where you just escaped, where you just came from.
Exactly. Right,
So
because
okay,
all of
so
a sudden you're seeing things like, oh, I can go to fucking Walmart and I can buy whatever I want, and if I work really hard, and it's like all these things that are like kind of set into the human experience here are, you see the benefits of it, but you don't see the pitfalls in this country, because you're not from here, so you don't understand the subtext of it all.
okay.
So these
So
people
what you're
here, this lady here is freaking out because she
yeah.
thought she was exempt. She was like, I just came from a dictatorship and I come
Yeah.
to America. And there's someone that's saying, like, we're going to make America great again and all this stuff. And all they're hearing is, because they're also in a bubble, is the left is saying, and they're being projected as being these really crazy liberals and all this stuff that obviously plays into their messaging. A lot of these Latino people are really conservative people. Very,
Yeah, that's
very conservative.
true. A lot.
So
Yeah.
all this
That is
shit
very
is
true.
weird to them. They're like, "What? Like trans people have rights? That's insane."
Yeah.
You know what I
Pronouns.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's like,
Yeah.
what the
Wow. I
fuck are
didn't
we
even think
talking
about.
about here?
Yeah. You're absolutely
Yeah.
right.
So,
Especially
but it's
when you bring
because
religion and like Catholicism and that kind of
a
stuff into
hundred
it, because
percent
that's what you mean
religion.
by
Yeah,
conservative. Yeah. 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 Because
it's all
okay.
a
So just
stew. It's all of a stew. Like
yeah. Because
ready
here's
for pour.
this is what I wanted to ask, just kind of as a follow up, because when you say conservative, that's a very interesting and very polarizing term here in the U.S., right? But when you're talking about, let's say, someone from Venezuela, someone from Ecuador, someone from El Salvador, um, using the term to describe yourself as conservative is not necessarily a political affiliation, is it? It's more of a of just
I
to
mean,
describe.
no, the right and left
Hmm.
paradigm is very apparent in Latin America because of the Cold War. So that is
Ah,
a very
okay,
that's still in line with like how we see right and left. The
okay.
right in these Latin countries are very conservative, very like authoritarian, all that kind of stuff, and the left is like very liberal or even center,
Oh, okay,
but like
okay.
obviously opposed. But these people, like I said, there's so like there's so much in like Latin history that it all bogs down to like these. I don't know. It's the same argument, man. It's always the same fucking thing of like making making Latin America great again is a very weird, real thing that these Latin countries have this like nostalgia for some past that never existed. You
Mm,
know what I mean? Because it's all
yeah.
based in colonial shit, and it's just like, what are you talking about? Like this, your country was never this fucking whatever you thought it was. Like, it
I mean,
wasn't. You know,
neither was this country, honestly. Like,
exactly. But
let's be real. Yeah.
that's the lie. Like, that's the lie. It's just this really weird callback to like making like the nationalistic pride in Latin America is very weird. Like every
Mm,
country feels very nationalistic about their country. There really is this. There is
okay,
no
same
unity
here.
thing. It's really bizarre. Yeah,
That's
it's
interesting.
very weird.
So a liberal, let's say, let's bring it back to context to you and where you're
Yeah,
from. So a liberal from
yeah.
your home country,
Mm-hmm.
would they be would they be as liberal as, let's say, a liberal here in the United States? And
No,
this
no,
is no, right?
no.
So
Not from
by
what I
my
understand.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I'm gonna say. I'm talking about you and your family, and not we're not. I'm not trying to put a whole country, boil it down into your perspective, but I'd like your
yeah, yeah,
perspective on
yeah.
what you've seen when you were there. I know you used to go a lot as a kid. I know you've gone some as an adult. So I'm just curious. So when you talk about, like, you say, yeah, you still have the left and right, you still have liberal and conservative. My question, I guess, is my brand of liberalism, your brand of liberalism, the same as over there? Like, if a liberal from there came over here, would they be considered conservative in their views
Yeah.
here in America? We'd be like, oh,
Uh,
that's just conservative, and not necessarily that you identify as a conservative person, but your viewpoints are very conservative because of the framework in which you grew up.
from what I understand, is that a lot of what like liberal leaning kind of ideas in these countries, or especially in El Salvador, are very much like socialist ideals. And then that's where that
Gotcha.
conversation comes in. So it's always socialism versus not socialism. That's always, and
Okay,
that gets put into the left category.
I
But
gotcha.
just to give you an idea, like how, I'm trying to be gentle with words here, but some of
Yeah,
these
of
Latin
course.
countries are fucking backwards, man. Like for real.
Okay.
And so are we. I mean, I'm not fucking throwing stones in a
Yeah,
glass
yeah, no,
house without saying how
of course
shitty
not.
our shit is. But they're
Yeah.
fucking backwards as shit too. Like my grandparents, this was a couple years ago. It was a couple years ago. My grandparents, you can say the same thing about any American grandparents here. Very conservative, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, old. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
they see things a
Mm-hmm.
certain way, whatever. Even just like having fucking a tattoo is like insane, right? Like shit like that, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah, yeah.
there was a thing going on where, um, I think the leftist party was in power at the time, and they were trying to create these like programs, for people specifically, uh, in the countryside, because it's like anything here, right? Like country folk, and they usually are the last to kind of get any kind of program, any kind of governmental programs to benefit whatever the fuck it is. It's the same thing as like any other country, especially over there. So they were
Yeah.
putting into play some program to help with disease outs going on at the time, where it's by mosquitoes and stuff like that. Um,
Okay.
so while this was going on, this epidemic was going on, like, let's see if you see any similarities here. When this epidemic was going on, there was also a race going on with, a nomination for like the new government or whatever, which is the right wing government was obviously trying to, um, dispose the left government. So all of a sudden, there's this weird rumor going around that they were trying to inject people with shit that could kill you,
Oh, wow.
because they were trying to put these programs out there to kind of fight this actual disease that was going on and killing people and
Yeah.
hurting people.
Mm,
But they
yeah.
were saying like, oh yeah, don't let the government shoot you up, because they're going to shoot you up with shit that's going to kill you. And my
Mm-hmm.
grandparents bought it hook, line, and sinker. And I remember my mom saying like, "What the fuck?" It's like they're so stupid. They need to, you know what I mean? Like they need to listen to the whatever the fuck, because there's an actual shit they could actually die from, and they're over here being fucking brain. So it's the same shit, man. The same game plan. Like
Oh,
this
yeah.
all
Yeah.
filters down through all the like, all the talking heads talk. They have the same messaging. It's all the same, just in a different
Yeah.
language.
Mm.
So yeah, so that's what I mean by that kind of shit. 'Cause that's very much right leaning. Don't let the left fuck you up. They'll like grow a penis on your head and you won't even realize it. You know what I mean? It's that
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
weird
Turn the
ass
frogs
like
gay. You're gonna. Yeah. Yeah.
conspiracy shit. Yeah, yeah, it's super weird. So yeah,
That's
but
crazy.
anyway, I opened this up because there's a lot of shit going on that's really strange, and Trump has And I think I want to open up with this first, and then I want to kind of give you the floor. So the president right now is doing a lot of executive orders, and I think
Mhm.
even for me, I don't really understand what that looks like, what that means, what the implications are of these things. And from my understanding, it's like there's the systematic approach of being so throwing all these things out to confuse everyone that you don't even know what to attack first. Like you can't even focus on which is the most important thing. We have
Yeah.
Trump. I mean, we have Elon Musk at the Treasury fucking around with shit. We have people getting fired, and the CIA is going to get dismantled. We got the FBI people in the FBI like getting like fired. All the airline shit that just happened, like all this
Yeah.
stuff. It's so there's a
That.
lot, there's so much shit going on. Like, what do you even fucking focus on, right? So
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
executive orders are kind of a play into like making it more confusing. But before I let you take the floor, I want to explain what normalcy bias is, and that's like allowing all this stuff to become normalized, which is not good, right? So
Okay.
I was
Okay.
looking on Reddit, and someone named Paint Shaker Baby, he explains normalcy
Nice.
bias, um, and it can't happen to me mindset with the flock of chickens because I just played the Hispanic thing. It can't happen to me. So this is kind of all in part and parcel to what I'm talking about here. So let me read this real quick, and I'm gonna actually put it up on the screen too as well. Um, it goes the psychological term for this phenomenon is normalcy bias. Say you're a chicken in an industrial farm with 1,000 other chickens. Each day, the farmer shows up and takes 20 chickens to slaughter. It is known that they will be killed and eaten. At first, it is a looming inevitability that terrifies you, but day after day goes by and you're not selected. After a couple of weeks, you start to get less and less scared when the farmer walks in. You find yourself thinking maybe he has a grand plan. Maybe he only picks chickens weaker than you. Maybe you wonder if you are special and he will never pick you at all. Maybe God is watching out for you. Weeks turn into months, and you become all but certain it'll never be you taken to slaughter. You don't even bother to look up from your feed when you hear his boots clunk through the door. Why would you? Things have been normal for hundreds of days. The farmer obviously has no designs on you, because in your experience, it is a statistical certainty that he will leave you alone today, and he has all the days prior to this one. Despite having watched thousands of your fellow chickens be led to slaughter, utter disbelief is the last thing that goes through your mind as the farmer cinches his hands around your throat and wrings your neck. I just think most people aren't wired to understanding something like this until it happens to them. On some level, we are all victims of our own normalcy bias, but turning a blind eye as your nation devolves into fascism is walking into the slaughterhouse and expecting not to be slaughtered. Only it's not days or months, but decades propping up people's normalcy bias. There is no one alive anymore to convey the horrors of Blitzkrieg. Like the slaughterhouse to the chicken, it is a faraway abstraction relegated to boring history books. Yes, we have all been taught what fascism leads to, but can it back up with an actual experience? So the little lie we tell ourselves to sleep at night slowly grows into a glaring existential contradiction. Nonetheless, we expect to wake up and live tomorrow just as we did yesterday and the day before that, because what's coming down the pipe is unprecedented in our lifetimes, yet all too familiar to the dark annals of history. The trick is not to get complacent because, make no mistake, everything is on the line right here, right now, today. Tomorrow is anything but guaranteed. So that's what normalcy bias is, which is
That's pretty good.
apparent in a lot of the things that are happening. I mean, just like the Latin community right now, they felt like they escaped. They escaped one thing, to be promised paradise and to not know that you're on the line too. Because what's crazier is that a lot of these people that got specifically Venezuelans, because they're the ones that were mad in that video.
Mhm.
They're coming from a place where it's not great. There's a lot of the inflation is terrible. The government is pretty corrupt, and it's just a shitty time to be a Venezuelan. And these people
Yeah.
left. Now they're getting sent back, and so not only do you get sent back to a place you escaped, um, But now you have a sign on you. You have a mark on you. People are gonna know that you left,
You
and the
tried to get
powers
out.
that be
Yeah,
know that
you're
you
back.
left, and
Wow,
now you're
that's
back. Okay, now we
terrifying.
got you now. You know what I mean?
Ooh.
And it's like a lot of people think that they're just untouchable that way because we can't understand the greater good. Because we're so focused on our own shit. And I get it though, because we all are. I mean, we all live in our own thing, but like there comes a time and place where you gotta be aware, self-aware,
Yeah, and
and
I do
be
like
woke. And the proper use of the word woke
of the
is what
word
that all
woke of
meant.
what they're trying to
Is
do.
what that all meant.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Be
yeah.
aware of what's happening around you because I like the idea of what you described just now as normalcy bias because I do feel like that plays into not just for us, right? Like not just for Venezuelans, but for all of us here in this country because again, like if you are a white person and you voted for Trump, but you are poor, you are not who you're not going to escape this. They may
Oh,
not grab your
100%.
neck today,
100%.
right?
Right.
They may be grabbing the Hispanic chickens today. They may come after the black
Right.
chickens next. They may go after
Right.
the Asian chickens after that. But I guarantee you, if you are white and you are poor, you're rural, you live in a rural area, you work a blue collar job, you don't have millions of dollars to your names, you're not part of the elite, they're coming for you next. They're going to use you, just like this lady was saying, they used us. They're going to use you to make it legal to come after us first. And then once we're taken care of, they're coming after you next.